Hi, how you doing? I have this holiday planter. I thought I'd salvage the plants out of it. It doesn't include these amaryllis. These are these wax bulbs, amaryllis from that I got from Costco. But this holiday planter has 4 different plants in it, and I thought I would show you what I'm going to do with it. My name is Sharon. I garden on a large yard in a small town in east central Saskatchewan, Zone 3. Welcome to my Sass Garden. Okay, we're down here in the grow room. Apparently I can't count because there's actually 5 plants that are in here. Are first of all an ivy, a variegated leaf ivy. There is a kalanchoe. That is, the flowers are, pretty much spent already. This tall one in the center is a lemon cypress. This over here is called a frosted fern, although I read that it is actually not in the fern family. It's technically a moss. And this one over here is wintergreen. And I didn't really believe that until I actually took a leaf and I broke it and you could smell wintergreen. So, and then of course there's some picks to make it look a little more festive. Now the reason I want to take this apart and not leave it the way it is first of all, it's in a Happy Holidays container, which in my house Christmas is pretty much done and undecorated, so I'd like to get rid of the container. The plants are all not suited for each other. The kalanchoe is a bit of a succulent. Actually, it has quite leathery, succulent type of leaves, and it's not as happy in the same kind of conditions as this frosted fern would be, for example. Another thing is this wintergreen is sort of drying up and looking rather sad, and I think it's probably from the lack of strong sunlight that it may need. When I was researching these plants in the past few days, I read that this wintergreen is actually hardy to zone 3. So I'm going to pot it up and save it. Normally I would just throw that out because it's losing leaves and etc. It's actually a shrub more than a perennial, and hardy to zone 3. And so I thought, well, I'm always up for a little challenge and to see if things are what they say they are. And so I'm going to just pot this up just to save it for until I can plant it outside. Then I'm going to plant it outside and just see how hardy it is. First thing we have to do is, of course, take it apart. And there's all this moss, sphagnum moss in here. And I'm just going to save this because I'm going to reuse it with that frosted fern. It's not everywhere. So yeah, these plants are planted together for the holidays. They do look very pretty, but they are not, they don't really like the same kind of growing conditions. And I'm just going to take this all out instead of trying to get each one individually. Oh, it's in a plastic container. I didn't know that. That was the other thing I thought that was not very good about that, is that it wouldn't have any drainage, but this plastic container has 2 drain holes in it. So same thing, I'm just going to try and get it all out. Oh, this is going to come out. That was taken out of its square pot and just tucked in there, so I suspect that the rest of them will be exactly the same. Yeah, they are. There's the lemon cypress. Oops. That's looking good. That has really nice roots. There's the frosted fern. That may have started to root in a little more. Definitely needs a good soak. And there's the wintergreen. And that is really, really root bound, so have to fix that up a little. And here is the ivy. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 different cuttings of ivy in here, which I'm sure I could take apart if I wanted to. But for now, I'll just get all of that kind of woodsy soil. It's got a lot of wood fiber in it. So I think I'm going to reuse this soil. I'll mix it up some with the ProMix HP that I like to use. But you know, the ProMix is really well draining, and it might be too well draining for this fern. And so I think that I'll reuse this for the fern, just because it's going to probably retain a bit of moisture, a little bit more moisture and humidity than the ProMix will. I took a good look at everything, and there's, you know, I know ivy can really be a magnet for aphids, but I did take a good look at it, and it looks fine. It looks nice and clean. The problem with this can be actually mold if you keep it too wet, and especially if you mist it, it's recommended not to mist it. It's also recommended that you would have very good luck growing these in a terrarium. I did that once. I had one of those plants. It was quite a bit smaller, and a few other plants in a terrarium. Just a small one, you know, one of those fishbowl things. And you know, I think that's what happened, is I was misting it, and it did start to get like a gray mold all over it. But at the same time, if it didn't have that humidity, it wasn't as happy. So I'm going to have to try and find the right balance for this. So I'm just going to point this down just a bit so you can see what I'm doing. I hope that's good. And for this fern, I'm just going to use this black plastic pot. Normally I like to use terracotta for a lot of my plants, but black plastic I find is really good for retaining more moisture. The terracotta is quite a bit free draining. It breathes, you know, it would dry out a lot quicker. The other thing I'm going to do with this is I'm not going to plant it up high. I'm actually going to plant it low into the pot, and that is so I can moisten that moss and tuck it all the way around, which should help with humidity. So I thought about where I'm going to put these, and we'll start with this one, this frosted fern, because this is what I am working on at the moment. And they like bright indirect light and very humid locations. And I think also they like to grow cool. I mean, normal house temperature is pretty good, but certainly nowhere near a heat register or anywhere that gets too hot. So in my house, I think my kitchen bay window is going to be pretty much perfect. It's right over the kitchen sink. So every time the hot water tap runs, it gets humidity from that. I also boil the kettle in that area, and so it will get humidity every time I boil the kettle, which is probably at least twice a day. I'm just going to get some, maybe I have some water here. Yeah, I do. Just going to get some. This would be reverse osmosis water is what I keep in here. Just clean water, nothing in it, but I want to soak this a bit. I don't know if I have anything. Oh, maybe one of these. All right, just one of these that has no holes in it. And so I just kind of want to soak this a bit just to gather some moisture in it, because it is quite dry. And then before I put the moss in, I'll just give this a drink. Just going to water this in some. It's still kind of floppy there, but I'm going to put the moss around it. And so apparently it's best not to water over top of the plant. It's best not to get the leaves or the fronds too wet. The plant itself likes to be kept, I'm not going to say soggy, but you know, you just want the top to dry just slightly before you water it again. It should, and at the same time, it should be free draining or not sit in a soggy bottom. So this has lots of holes on it on the bottom. I'm gonna have to find the tray that goes with that pot. I'll just squeeze that water out. I'm pretty sure I have some of this moss hanging around somewhere that I could use as well. But this should do the trick. I think that should be quite good. It's about the right size of pot, I'd say. And that is just gonna now go above the kitchen sink. I've had a geranium up there for quite a while, but I'm moving it because it has gotten so large, and I want to take some cuttings of it, so that's going to come down here. I think we'll work on this kalanchoe next. First thing I'm going to do with it is cut off most of these blossoms, because they are pretty much done. These are tough plants. I had one once before until it finally just absolutely quit blooming. I had it for a number of years. I think it was bloomed yellow or orange or something like that. It was very nice. So I was looking these up to find out more information to make sure I'm doing everything right. And I read that in order to induce blooming, they need 14 hours of darkness. So that time of year, when it gets 14 hours of darkness, it would be kind of resting at that point. Oh, those flowers don't look too bad actually, but I'm still going to cut them off. And then the plant can just concentrate on rooting instead of trying to keep those flowers alive. Always a good thing to do when transplanting or when repotting, if they have a lot of flowers on them. And while I'm at it, I'll just get rid of some of these lower leaves. This one's up higher, but I think I'll get rid of it anyway. And this is potted exactly in all of that same kind of soil. So just going to add a bit more Pro Mix to that. And this one I'm going to grow in a terracotta pot because it is somewhat succulent. And so maybe I'll do just a little bit more of the Pro Mix. And all that Pro Mix I generally pre-moisten. Otherwise, it can sometimes get a little bit difficult to moisten it properly. It almost can become hydrophobic if you plant right into the dry mix. That'll work. The top of it is still sticking up just slightly, but I suspect all of this will slump just a little bit more when I give it a watering. There we go. Hopefully I'll have blooms on that again. I think we get a lot more than 14 hours of darkness at the moment. We'll go with this now, this lemon cypress. Lemon cypress is hardy only to zone 7. It's a very nice color, and if you have it in less light, the leaves it'll start going a little bit darker green. I had hoped that that would be big enough, but it is not going to be. So I'm going to have to plant it in a different pot. And this, I think, is a little bit too big. Since I'm also putting this upstairs in the kitchen bay window, I would like to have a nicer pot, so I'm going to use this one. The rest of that, I'll save that along with this. Possibly use it again. That's how I get in trouble with all my hoarding, with all my saving, and then I have too much of everything. And we'll just add a bit more there. Now those roots don't appear, they're very nice roots. They don't appear to be really, it doesn't appear to be really root bound, so I don't think that teasing the roots too much is really necessary. Just make sure it's in the center, it appears to be. I often get asked about this tray, and it's called a tidy tray. It's made by Garland, and I ordered it. It came from England. I ordered it from Amazon, and it came from England, and it did take quite a long time. At the time, in all my research, I did not find it available, you know, in a different manner or from a different supplier. But now I see that there is a place in Calgary that sells them and also ships them, I believe. Now, I haven't looked lately, so I'm not sure, and I can't remember the name of the place. I'll put it up on the screen if I should remember or find it again. I have mentioned before, just, you know, as a courtesy to anybody who would like to know about the tray. And I do find it to be very helpful. I like how it's lower at the bottom and higher at the back, and it's easy for, you know, kind of mixing soil and things like that. It also holds all the muck and all of the dirty bits and stuff. I usually, when I do something like this with all of the things I'm cutting back, I usually put it in a separate tray. I don't want to generally get it mixed in with the soil that I'm potting up. But anyways, I think this looks quite nice. It maybe would benefit from some sort of mulch over top. I don't know. I don't know that I have anything. I don't have like any small rocks or anything at the moment. I'm sure you can't see it, but I keep a 5-gallon pail of water just there. Andy put in a tap that runs down here, so I can just fill it. And I use this tap water conditioner because of chlorine and chloramine, and also I like it to sit and get to room temperature. So that turned out pretty good, I think. I like it. There we go. Looking good. And now this wintergreen. It does have some dry stems. I'm going to clip them all away. You can see that it has these little red berries in there, which I guess that's the reason for using it in holiday planters. I don't know how this is gonna... I'm simply saving this to try and grow it outdoors. And oh my gosh, it's so root bound. This is what I'm gonna do for that. Actually, I'm gonna take a knife. So I have an old bread knife down here. And those bread knives work perfect for that kind of thing. So I took off all of that at the bottom. And now I'm just going to clip it a bit, and that is just to get those roots from winding around themselves. And I want them to branch out a little. So in this way, when they're like this, they actually have a really hard time with taking up adequate moisture when it's like that. So whenever you have a plant that's that root bound, unless it's something that really detests root disturbance, it's always beneficial, I think, to just go ahead and trim those roots and give it a fighting chance, you know. So this one I am putting just in one of these plastic container because, as I said, I'm going to grow this just under the lights down here. And I am only doing it so that I can try and get it to survive until spring, and at which time I'll put it out into somewhere in the garden just to see. I don't know the variety of this one, like how big it's meant to grow. It probably isn't meant to grow very big at all, I imagine. Oh, that's pretty tight. Might need something bigger. You know, when you have indoor grow lights and a certain amount of space, you really do have to think about how big your containers are, and if you can manage with a smaller container, you know, it probably would be beneficial to do so. So I don't think it really needs any soil on the top of it. It really just needs it on the sides and down below, just to help it branch out a little bit. There we go. So I'll report back on that to let you know if it, first of all, how it's making out. I'm sure you'll see it in upcoming videos on the status of it. But it does look a little bit better than it did 5 minutes ago. And I'm just going to leave that underneath the grow lights here in the grow room. This ivy. I'd like to do some sort of, I thought I would just pot it up and then do some sort of topiary with it. Still my plan, really. And my idea is, I have this little willow chair. It's like a doll-sized willow chair, a little bit bigger. I made this so many years ago and really never used it for very much. I made it just simply to try making it. At the time I was also making big, you know, life-size willow furniture. It's been preserved well because it's been indoors almost all the time. I haven't left it outside, so it hasn't weathered to any degree. And so now I thought maybe I would try something like this with that ivy. I would pot the ivy and then I would train it up around. So I'm just going to kind of show you roughly here what my thought is. Turn that so you can see it. And so that's how I would do a topiary with it, is by growing it up and through this little chair. I think that would look pretty neat. So for today, ideally, I think it would be good to get a square pot or a pot that fits a little bit better in here, and then lash that, plant it up and lash it on. I'm going to plant it into this for now. I'm not going to start the topiary yet. I'm going to let this root and see how that goes first. So I think the only thing I have that will like full-on direct sun in the house is the lemon cypress, and that it needs 6 to 8 hours of full sun. Full sun, even plants that like bright indirect light can take full sun in our climate, in our winter sun, because the winter sun is not very strong. So you won't get scorched leaves, certainly not until about mid-March, and at that time, if your plant is still in full light or full sun, and it shouldn't be, then you could probably move it then. But I'd even put that, I'm going to put that frosty fern on the kitchen bay window, or on the shelf of the kitchen bay window, and that it's also south facing and gets full sun. It's going to have some shade from some other plants around it, but at this time of year I'm not too concerned about, I would consider our full sun at this time of year to be bright and direct light, quite honestly. Certainly for another, I'm going to say 6 weeks. So that's done. That's just in a recycle nursery pot, because I'm going to do something. I'm going to try and do something with that little chair, and at that time I may have to repot this. They're quite aggressive. It may need a bigger pot anyway. I would go wider, and I couldn't really go much deeper. Otherwise, I think this is just fine. Okay, here they all are. I'm not sure if I was entirely clear the whole time about the conditions that they like to grow in. So there's the lemon cypress. That is going to go in bright sunshine on my kitchen bay window, where the temperature will be a little cooler, because I'm going to put it closer toward the window, and so it'll be a little bit cooler, and that's where it'll get the best light as well. It will also be a little bit more of a humid environment, although not quite as much as the area closer to the kitchen sink, which is where the frosty fern is going to go. And that I am putting closer to the kitchen sink for the humidity, as well as it will be a less intense sun, and there will be benefit of shade from some taller plants. The dipladenia are also up there, and so they will be shading the frosty fern throughout the day. The kalanchoe, it's my experience that it tolerates a wide variety of conditions to grow in. I'm going to have it in bright indirect light with some late day sunshine shining on it. This wintergreen plant is going to go under grow lights down here in the basement, and so those grow lights are set for 16 hours a day. And again, that is simply to try and get it to survive until I can get it planted outside, and then we'll see what it does outside. And then finally, this variegated leaf ivy. And here is where the ivy will sit, for now at least. And right there is the wintergreen plant. And there is my cuttings for Martha Washington geraniums that I wasn't sure if they were going to take. They obviously have, blooming nicely. And here is where the lemon cypress at the back and the frosted fern will sit, and they're in this kitchen bay window above the kitchen sink. And the two other plants with them, or the four other plants with them, are the two larger plants are Diplodenia, and then I also have a couple of smaller hibiscus plants that also enjoy this highlight and higher humidity environment. And here is my variegated leaf geranium that now needs to go downstairs to get a serious haircut. Thanks for hanging out today. I hope you enjoyed the video, got something out of it. Maybe you have one of these planters of your own that you'd like to deconstruct and do something with, and maybe I've given you some ideas of that today. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video today. I do appreciate it, and I hope you're doing well. See you soon.